Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Daisy. Today I'll be reading my subscribers' scary stories. Now if you guys are interested, grab your snacks, grab your cobija, and let's get straight into it. Good morning, Daisy. I would like to stay anonymous just due to the impact this had on my family. I was listening to your videos on my way to work today, and I just felt compelled to share this story with you. This story gives me the chills to this day. This occurred in October of 2013. My grandpa was very sick and was placed in hospice care. Coming from a Mexican family, we prayed and prayed for about 2 weeks so my grandpa could find peace in the afterlife. Now let me give you a short background story so this story makes sense. My grandparents moved into a house in the outskirts of town that was on a little ranchito here in the US. I 100% believe the ranchito where their house is haunted because many different incidents have occurred to my uncles and aunts. My padrino, who is involved with church, had blessed my house. However, when my grandparents asked my padrino to bless their house and the property, my padrino told them that he couldn't because there was a strong force of negative energy and they would need a priest. Neighbors of the ranchito have said that a family of 4 once lived there. The husband murdered his wife and 2 kids, and supposedly he buried them throughout the property. Somehow the rumor started that one of the little kids was buried underneath one of the rooms in my grandparents' house. This room has always given me a creepy vibe, and the room has always been extremely cold, regardless of the weather. Now, a short background of my grandpa. When he was younger, he messed around with la magia negra. Being Mexican, we all know that you do not mess with that because it is really bad. My mom said that ever since my grandpa did that, weird stuff had been happening to them and the property. Now back to that day where my family was praying for my grandpa while he was in hospice care. My grandpa was on his bed inside the living room and my family was around him. As normal, my family prayed for my grandpa, and as it was time to go to sleep, everyone began falling asleep. No one had left the living room because they wanted to stay near my grandpa, so some family members slept on the couch and others on the floor. My grandpa's sister was sleeping on the floor, but it was in a seated position leaning against the wall. My mom said close to 3 a.m., everyone was awakened by the screams of my grandpa's sister. When my mom opened her eyes, she saw my grandpa's sister underneath the bed of my grandpa, and she was screaming and crying. Everyone asked her what had happened since she was sitting down and somehow woke up underneath the bed on her knees. My grandpa's sister told them she saw a large tongue wrapped around her neck, and someone suddenly pushed her, and that is how she landed under the bed. I asked my mom what she thought of that whole situation, and she said she believes it was the devil or a demon who appeared to them while they were sleeping. My mom is not one who is easily scared. However, when she was telling me this story, she had goosebumps on her skin. My mom believes since they stopped praying to fall asleep, the devil, demon, appeared to my grandpa for messing with la magia negra. My mom said they continued to pray and throw holy water until they felt the bad presence leave. This story creeps me out because I have a feeling it was a greater force that tried messing with them that night. There is one thing about spirits and ghosts, but when it comes to the devil or demons, that is where you need to be careful because you do not know what they can do. I asked my mom if she thinks my grandpa has found peace, and she said, at first, it may have been difficult since he messed with la magia negra. However, she believes in her heart he is now at peace. Hi Daisy, this is going to be a long one. I'm listening to your stories while I'm at work and I felt open to share my experiences. I like to remain anonymous. This happened my freshman year of college. I was taking a religious studies course. During this time, I also enjoyed writing short stories, and I wanted my next one to have a religious storyline. I began to dig deeper into the famous stories of the fallen angels, which involved research on demons as well. I had 2 occurrences during my research, and this is the first. I lived with my uncle, his wife, and 3 sons at that time. Their youngest was around 2 years old. I remember one day I woke up in the middle of the night. I stayed laying in bed and closed my eyes again, hoping to fall back asleep. I was in a conscious state still. I heard my youngest cousin cry. It was normal since he was still little and he'd only need a bottle of milk to fall back asleep. I heard someone walking down the hall. By the sound of the footsteps, I figured that it was my uncle waking up to give him his bottle. Then I fell into a deep sleep. I dreamt of myself in a basement. There were stairs behind me. Everything else was pitch black. Then I hear a voice say, "The blink is coming." I don't like to say the name, so I will keep it out of the story. The voice kept getting progressively faster. "The blink is coming. The blink is coming." I felt scared in my dream and jolted awake. As I woke up, there was a bang on my bedroom door. I did my research the next day and I felt uneasy about what I found. Part of me wanted to ignore it and just say that it was all part of a dream, but I had to ask. A few days later, while my aunt was cooking, I brought up my cousin's sleeping schedule and if it had gotten any better. She replied, "He's been good. He's been sleeping through the night all week." I asked more questions. Maybe my uncle woke up and she didn't hear him. Something that would make sense. Her simple response was no. This scared me because the research that I did after my dream revealed that the name I had heard in my dream was of a demon who takes the form of a child. My aunt noticed that there was something wrong after she saw my confused reaction, so I told her what had happened. She said it was probably my mind playing tricks on me and said that I was probably half asleep. It has been 4 years since that occurrence, and I decided to share the story with my mom 2 nights ago. Unfortunately, when I showed my mom the name, she said it out loud. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but last night while I was laying in bed, scrolling through TikTok, I heard weird noises as if someone was moving around on the other side of the room, just a few feet away from where I was laying. It was dark and I didn't want to check to see what it was. When it comes to paranormal things, I don't want to give it any energy, so I ignored it. But as soon as I heard those noises, I instantly remembered my previous occurrence. I know that it would probably be best if I told you the name. The story won't be as vague. I don't mind people knowing it, I just don't want to write or say it. But I will tell you that it was inspired by the movie The Nun. Like I said, I had 2 occurrences happen to me. This was because I thought maybe my aunt has a point and maybe it was only my sleepy mind playing tricks on me. So I continued my research for my story. I remember I was sitting in bed with my laptop, my phone, and papers scattered everywhere. I was researching the 7 demon lords. I remember watching videos, and in one of them, I saw an image that scared me. I still remember it to this day. That's kind of when the energy in the room got heavy. I continued reading. I was looking down and a fly landed on my hand. I swatted it away. I didn't think much of it, but then it landed on my knee and I swatted it again, but it kept coming back. I wasn't paying it any attention until it was hard to ignore, since it literally kept trying to land on my face. I would swat it away, and it would come back. I continued reading, annoyed. Mind you, this fly came out of the blue. My bedroom door was closed, so were my windows. It just randomly appeared until something clicked. I looked at the name of the demon I was currently researching, the Lord of the Flies. My heart sank, and I remember my body felt hot. I packed everything that was on my bed and immediately hid it on the top corner in my closet. I never again touched that writing. The last time I saw it was when I was moving and I threw it out. No one knows the story. I was embarrassed to share it and have people think a fly scared me. But I know the fear I felt and what my intuition was telling me. As far as what happened to the fly, I don't know. It disappeared. I've always been drawn to the unknown and spiritual world, which is why I wanted my career to go towards that. But I know that if I go towards that path, there will be consequences. Thank you for sharing. Hi Daisy, I'm a student worker at my university's Latino Center. I'm a desk attendant, but really all I do is my homework. For reference, the desk I sit at is directly across a small office room. The door is usually not shut all the way, so there's always a wide gap to see inside the room. One day, my boss and one of my coworkers had a meeting in the back conference room with a high school student. I was alone at the front of the office, and the room across from me was empty. No one had been in there all day. Anyways, I was doing some research for one of my papers and I was extremely focused on my computer screen when I felt something looking at me and the vibe was kind of off. So I looked up towards the office room and saw what looked like the head of a shadow person peeking behind the office door. The head immediately hid behind the door once it saw me look up at it. At that moment, the lights automatically turned on. The lights in the office rooms detect motion in order to turn on, and it can't be a coincidence that I saw something move right before the lights turning on. I can still vividly remember how the shadow person looked. It was a pitch black figure, no hair, no eyes, no other facial features, kinda like a mannequin, but all black. It all happened very fast, and I didn't know how to feel. I wasn't scared because I am used to these things, but only in my dreams. I was just shocked that this happened in real life, and I wonder why it was just observing me. After that happened, I continued to work on my homework, lol. I also still work at that office, and thankfully, I haven't felt weird vibes since then. Hi Daisy, I'm writing to you because recently I had a carne asada with my family and they started telling their paranormal stories they had experienced in Mexico. So I just had to tell you. Basically, my mom was telling a story about her grandpa and his wild encounters with the paranormal and leyendas. One of the stories that really made me feel shivers down my spine was when my great-grandpa had seen El Diablo en una caverna. My great-grandpa was on his usual walk with his dog around his pueblo. He said that the dog went off trail and went deep into the woods. My great-grandpa followed behind him and stopped when they approached a cave. He recalls that there were writings on the outside saying, "No entren," don't enter, and "Por favor, váyanse," please leave. This obviously unsettled him, so he called out for his dog when he realized that the dog had gone inside, leaving my great-grandpa alone. He remembered looking at his watch and remember it saying it was around 12 in the afternoon. He decided to quickly go in and find his dog to leave and go home. Not too far walking into La Caverna, he described the atmosphere being dense, cold, and unbiting. He called out to his dog, but nothing. No sound at all, except his breathing. He kept walking straight when up ahead there were two different trails he would take, the left or the right. As he was walking down the left trail, he stopped and couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. He said that before he could fully turn, he felt hotness coming from the other side of the trail. So he decided to only take a peek and was greeted by seeing childlike creatures playing in fire. This left him speechless, but that wasn't even the worst part. My great-grandpa claims to have seen El Diablo sitting and smiling at the childlike creatures playing. He felt like his mind was getting blurry and he thought he was going to pass out when he felt something tug his pants. When he turned, he realized it was his dog and pulled him, signaling to follow him. He says that he felt like it was 2 minutes when they were back outside. Once outside again, he felt like he could finally breathe again and felt safe. He felt like he was trapped in the caverna for hours. His eyes met his watch, and when seeing the time, he truly felt like that cave was the home of El Diablo, because it was still around 12 in the afternoon. No time had passed, and it couldn't have been his watch being broken because it was brand new. He says that throughout the years, people went to visit that cave and that some people even got lost inside. This made me wonder if my great-grandpa's dog was like a guardian angel that led him to safety. How did the dog find him? Or how did he know exactly where the exit was? My great-grandpa told his friends, but none of them believed him. So maybe he was imagining it, but to me, it just seemed to be real. Hi Daisy, my name is Dalia. So this isn't my own experience, it's actually my mom's. This takes place in Yuma, Arizona. We lived in a small apartment here in town. At the time, my dad's sister had passed away and he had to leave to Mexico for the funeral, leaving my mom, siblings, and I alone at our apartment. The night after my dad left to Mexico, we all stayed together in my parents' room to go to sleep. It was my mom, my sister, and I on the bed, and my oldest sister on the floor on my mom's side of the bed. My mom says that we were all asleep and that in her sleep, she would hear my oldest sister, the one that was sleeping on the floor, crying and complaining, Mom, my leg hurts." My mom didn't get up just yet and ignored it, lol, thinking she would eventually calm down and just go back to sleep. My mom says that once again, she was woken up by my sister crying and complaining about her leg. This time, my mom stayed in bed but told my sister, "Ya cálmate y duérmete." But she said my sister kept crying and calling out for her. She ignored her again and went back to sleep, thinking my sister would just fall asleep. She was woken up again by my sister crying, but this time she said that the voice that had sounded like my sister's was now a very deep, demonic voice that suddenly yelled, "Mom, wake up!" That voice immediately woke my mom up, and as she sat up and opened her eyes, she was face to face with a creature that was in fact not my sister, but instead a demonic creature with a black face, piercing red eyes, horns that twisted back, and a nose that resembled a pig's. She was frozen, in shock. She says that she felt an indescribable fear. This creature quickly disappeared in literally a blink of my mom's eyes. My mom turned over to look at my sister, and she was peacefully asleep. The following days after that, we all left that apartment and stayed with my grandma's until my dad came back home. To this day, my mom says that she perfectly remembers that face that was staring deep into her eyes. She believes she was face to face with the devil himself. So that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. A special thank you to everyone that has written in their story. I seriously do appreciate it. I love hearing your guys' stories. I seriously do. So if you guys have a spooky paranormal story that you would like to share with all of us, please send it in at daicyspooks@gmail.com. So other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye!